Welcome back to Conversation from the Crossroads of Southern Music History and Culture. I'm Dr. Bob Beatty. Guest in this episode is Charles Davis, who's the front man for the Macon Music Revue, a really great collective in Macon, of course, founded on the principles of the Preservation Hall and the Preservation Hall Jazz Band in New Orleans. I've long watched how Macon, over many decades now, has seized music history as a vital and important part of its cultural life. And the Macon Music Revue, Charles' efforts there, and a whole bunch more that you will hear about are an essential part of the continuation of the legacy of both the Allman Brothers Band and Otis Redding and Little Richard before them in Macon, Georgia. If you hear us saying things like, as I told you before, it's because we did an entire episode and I forgot to record it. So this is take 2, Charles Davis, Macon Music Revue.
Every town, every community that has a past that it trades on. And I don't say that as like in the Disney World sense. And I spent a lot of time in Orlando and in local history in Orlando.
Yeah.
But I mean in the sense of New Orleans does it, to a certain extent, Nashville does it. Macon does it, where it, music, it's music history and it's music drives its history and culture, or its music is part of its history, and it drives its culture, continues to. It has this long legacy in Macon. It begins before Little Richard, but if we're gonna say rock and roll begins somewhere with Mr. Richard Penniman of Macon, Georgia, and it does. It comes through Otis Redding and his tremendous short-ish career, and then of course where I began, Dwayne Allman and his very brief career that kind of permanently puts Macon on the map at the studio that Otis was building with Phil Walden. So we can still acknowledge Otis there.
Yeah.
At different times, I've been going to Macon since 1997. I've seen the transition. I've seen it when it was a lot more boarded up. When I first went there, Capricorn was still boarded up.
Yes, it was.
Phil Walden's offices have always looked like that. Mama Louise still owned the H&H and was still running it. Yeah. There was no fence around Dwayne and Barry's grave. So Macon began, that was around the time Macon began embracing this side of it. Kirk West and Kirsten had bought the big house. They had the little archives room there, and there was a movement going. It's been a long time in coming till Macon Music Revue kind of gets put together. So talk about that, the project, who's putting it together, who are the players that kind of put you guys in the room, your story about being selected as the front man. And, kind of the journey, give it some time to talk about the journey with like Macon Music Revue coming to, and then I think we'll get into the set list and the album a little bit. Now, I'll let you tell the Otis, the Zelma Redding story. I really do want you to go on the record with that one. Because you were like, I am going to tell this. And the hairs on my arm stood up a little bit. I go, I have a feeling I'm about to hear something really good. So I want to hear,
that's one of my favorite stories.
Redding family has blessed me, but I want to hear a little bit more.
Okay,
I'll set you up and then let you just sort of roll with this one for a little bit. It's your past. It's your story.
So we'll go, like I said, we didn't talk about this before, but since we're going to start with this, we'll take it to this point. The way I look at it, had you told me my life was going to be what my life is right now 12 years ago, I'd have laughed in your face. I'd have sincerely laughed in your face because I've been singing all of my life. The story that I always hear from my family is that when I was born, my father's mother walked into the hospital room with my mother holding me in her arms. And my mother passed me to my grandmother, and my grandmother looks at me and she goes, "That boy gonna be a singer." And my mother and father laughed at her. And she goes, No. That boy's going to be a singer. And so we go by singing around the house all of my life. Didn't do it for years outside of like singing in the car or singing at the house until I made the mistake. And something was playing on TV when I was in the 8th grade at school. And I started singing in the back of the class. And all of a sudden, the girls turned around to see who that was singing. And when I realized, oh, people like it when I sing, I started doing it a little bit more. And I did it. I sang a little bit in high school, not a whole lot, and then just stopped almost completely singing because I had the dream of doing it, but it didn't seem like the dream was going to work out. And so I started focusing on other things. And I happened to run into a guy named Pop who his brother needed somebody to sing a hook for an R&B song, for a hip hop song. And I went, okay. And I went and did that, and we recorded the song. And here at the Macon City Auditorium, they had an award show that they were going to perform at, and they were going to do the song that I was singing on. And it's the only time I've done this. I stood in the back of the Macon City Auditorium with my head down, microphone to my face, did not look up, did not move, just stood there and sang.
Mm-hmm.
When we got done with that show, we went back to their apartment, and these are like some hood guys, okay? These are rappers. And they look at me and they go, that is the last time you stand on a stage and look down and sing. You're too good for that. No. So every single week, they wrote a song, I sang a hook, we performed it. They wrote a song, I sang the hook,
Wow.
we performed it. And they broke me out of that. Okay, so there's that piece. We're doing that, and I'm working at Best Buy, and a friend of mine tells me that her director at the theater needs an actor. Okay, I said, black guys don't do theater. And she goes, oh, Charles, you have no idea what you're talking about. I'm going to tell him that you're interested. You have an audition. Okay. Went down, did the audition. Jim Chris tells me, okay, you got the part. We'll see you at rehearsal on Monday. Excuse me? Like what are we doing here? So I started doing theater. I've done theater from then to now. I've probably been doing theater about 12 years now. And theater gave me a different type of training. I've never gone to school for singing a day in my life, but I think theater is what trained me, because I had to learn how to emote in front of a live audience every single night, doing the same thing. So that's kind of where people learned about my voice. I started doing the radio station. They knew I had sang a little bit there. But it wasn't until I was asked to front a band, which is the first time I'd ever been asked to do that. Once again, kind of thought that was past me at that point. I was like, okay, well, I'm doing this radio thing now. I've done theater. Okay, cool. Like I've had my opportunities, but maybe that's not what I'm supposed to do. Maybe that just won't be what it is. So whatever. But I got asked to be the front man for this band that was going to do weddings and things like that. And wanting to get back out there and actually do something musically outside of the theater, because I've been singing all the stuff in the theater. I mean, I got to do all the big stuff. I got to play The Beast in Beauty and the Beast. I got to be the Tin Man in The Wiz. I was in Les Miserables. I've done all of the really big stuff, but I hadn't done anything that was to my core what was me, which was just singing regular songs. And the opportunity came to be the front man for this band. We formed the band Charles Davis and the Velvet Sound and started performing around Macon and Middle Georgia. And then my boss at the time, Wes Griffith, former owner of The Creek and current owner of all the stuff with Moonhanger, and Lisa Love with the Georgia Music Foundation, wanted to put together this preservation style band for Macon music. And so we came up with about a 50-song playlist and came up with the Macon Music Revue and tried to make it as Macon-centric as possible, highlighting the big ones, but actually shining a light on the people that created the great music that people might not have known about, like a Howard Tate and people like that wrote and produced for a lot of these artists that came through here but didn't get to shine. And we cut our teeth at Historic Grants Lounge for a year and a half doing that before we made some changes in the band, which was weird for me, because I'm a person that likes, once I get a certain groove around me, I like to keep that around me. And
Sure.
what I didn't realize was that everybody has to be all in on it for it to work the way you want it to, right? And so we, in order for the band to grow, we needed to make some changes. Um, and so we did. About a year and a half in, we changed our lead guitar player, which is a crazy thing to do for a band, to change out your lead guitar player. And we switched out our bass players, and we brought in Dustin McCook to play lead guitar. We brought in Evan Bensel to play bass. We brought in Ethan Hamlin to play keys, and Caleb Melvin remained there as our drummer. And in all honesty, that's when the Macon Music Revue became the Macon Music Revue. It was when those changes were made that we evolved. And as we cut our teeth at Grants every Wednesday night playing this music, and people started recognizing it and inviting us to do things, going to Nashville and performing at Americana Fest, going to South Carolina and performing for Garden and Gun. It made us tighter. It brought us together as a group. It gave us opportunities that we never thought would have happened. But it also showed us that when we take this Macon music outside of Macon, the love that is had for it is astounding. Especially when they realize, oh, I've known this music all my life. I just never knew it came out of Macon. And that's what it is. So yeah, the review was born out of, to me, a necessity to preserve what we have as far as our musical legacy that we borrow upon, as you said, in the best way that we can. But then also to show that the future of music in this town is just as bright, and the players are just as good as they were before. And to me, I think that's a great mix of the two that we have with the review.
Music is a really great interpretive tool for history. It's a really great way to understand culture. It's a great way to understand where you are today, where you were. I also know from playing music, from studying it, from listening to it, etc. It's a communal, communal activity. It's certainly in the South.
Yeah.
It is a part of our culture. It's, certainly in the Black church, very different in the white church, I'll say. But
understandable. No, I get it though. I get it.
Hillbilly music or country music, blues is now a part of everybody's background.
Mm-hmm.
Even hip hop, which is a all of this is a communal form of music. And Macon's music is like, look, my entree is the Allman Brothers. Gotta do my plug. Play all night. Dwayne Allman and the Journey to Fillmore East.
Yes, sir.
That was where it started for me.
Yeah.
And I start to peel the onion, and the layers.
Mm-hmm.
And so you guys have a catalog of, like, you said 40, 50. How many are you playing today?
Okay, it started with a catalog about 40 and 50. We are probably now close to 175, 180 songs in our master playlist. We're creeping up on 200 on there. And the reason why we did that is because we didn't want the shows at Grants to be stagnant for us, let alone the audience that comes to see us. So if you came to see the show 1 week and then you came to see the show 2 weeks later, we didn't want you to see the same show. We wanted you to hear different music and to experience something a little different. So we were constantly changing out set lists. We kept some of the biggies in there. We knew we always had to have, in any Macon Music Revue playlist that we ever set up, we're always going to have Otis. We're always going to have Richard. We're always going to have the Allman Brothers. We're probably always going to have a James Brown song in there. We're probably always going to have a Wet Willie song. We're always going to have a Marshall Tucker song. Yeah, those are the ones that no matter what set we do, we're going to have those artists, and then we'll fill out everything else around that. But those artists will be represented. And then we just kind of can pick and choose from those artists of what we want to do for that night. And like I said, it keeps it fresh for the audience, and it keeps it fresh for us so that we can kind of play around and have fun with it every week instead of it just us getting tired of doing the same show over and over and over again.
Right. What drives your set choices? So we can go. We're going to go into the record. You know that.
Yeah.
For everybody's benefit, this is take two. Your boy didn't hit record the first time, and Charles said, "I'm going to stay here."
Look, I'm here for. I love the conversation. No, okay, so Bob, it really depends on the feel of where we're going to be playing. So I'll try to give you two examples. For a normal Grant show, like I said, we'll hit stuff that is not the absolute hits, right? We'll go a little deeper into our bag. So if we're going to do an Allman Brothers song at Grant's, we're probably not going to do Midnight Rider or Ramblin' Man or Whipping Post. We're probably going to do Desdemona or Queen of Hearts or Pony Boy or Stand Back or something like that. That's what we're going to get into when we're at home. If we're on the road, like we were in Denver a couple weeks ago, that's when we pull out a Whipping Post, because out there it's going to hit harder. That's what they want to hear. So when we're out of town, what we try to do is hit the songs that we know they're going to want to hear. We do Keep On Smiling. We do Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. We do all of the stuff that they want to hear. And then we give them some samples of stuff that they might know but didn't realize about. In Macon, we try to dig a little deeper because they know this stuff here. They're expecting to hear that from traveling musicians to pay their homage to the greats. But with us being the hometown band, we try to do differently. Like we pulled out Boz Scaggs' Loan Me a Dime a little while ago, and that song's a killer. And we had a great time with it. So we do stuff like that. So it really does just depend on the set, the place that we're going to go with it, and kind of if we want to have a more party feel with it, do we want to have it more bluesy, do we want to do it? And we just kind of adjust it that way, depending on the feel of the venue.
And all the connections are back to Macon artists, whether they had recorded there, lived there,
it's a recording
records through
Capricorn. Yeah, a lot of the artists that record through Capricorn, like I said, the James Brown Connection, he recorded his first two songs here in Macon, Georgia, on the recommendation from Little Richard to do that. Little Richard coming into town and performing in front of Sister Rosetta Tharpe, and that being his first paid performance ever at the Macon City Auditorium. The Wet Willies, the Cowboys, the Marshall Tucker Band, all the people that came out of Capricorn Sound Studios. We do some Percy Sledge because he came through this town, and a lot of those soul singers came through the town due to the booking agency that Phil Walden had. So we do Percy Sledge, we do Howard Tate, we do Swamp Dogg, we do a little bit of Ray Charles, because I always say you can't talk about Macon music without talking about Georgia music, and you can't talk about Georgia music without talking about Ray Charles. So we do a Ray track. But yeah, anybody, it's the people that are connected to this town and the newer acts that have been through. We do a couple songs from Brent Cobb, who has recorded a couple of albums at the newly renovated Capricorn Sound Studio. So we try to make a mix of all of the stuff that is relevant now and is so historic to our past.
We talked about this earlier. We'll bring it up again. You know, there is a parallel in imagination to the Preservation Hall Jazz Band in New Orleans. You know, this great funky venue playing traditional jazz intentionally to preserve. And I don't want it to get sort of lost in the ether, the significance of Grant's Lounge to Macon, to Southern rock, to music in general. I mean, that is the place where Marshall Tucker Band auditioned for Phil Walden and Frank Fenter at Capricorn Records. That's the place where they all hung out and played music till early hours of the morning. Y'all are the house band there. Grant's family the Grant family still owns it or manages it, runs it.
It's still running the building. Like I said, with the help of Wes Griffith with the Moonhanger Group, he recognized that Grant's Lounge was just what you said, an institution, and he wanted to invest in that. So Mr. Ed Grant and Miss Cheryl are still there running things. Mr. Ed Grant was at our last show that we did last month in June. It was great to see him, because when we talk about the formation of the Macon Music Revue, in the very beginning, it took some building because we were doing this on a Wednesday night. And nobody really goes out on a Wednesday night. I mean, that's a weird night to go out. And I remember sitting outside Grant's one afternoon before we were going to perform, and Mr. Grant, Mr. Ed was there. And I sat down and I lit up a cigarette and I was just sitting there and he goes, "How you doing?" I'm like, "I'm all right, Mr. Grant." He's like, "Okay, good. I just want y'all to know this is going to build. Give it some time. It's going to take some time to get there, but y'all just keep doing what y'all doing and y'all will get there." And I said, "Thank you, Mr. Grant. I greatly appreciate it. That's what I think too." And I'd be damned if he wasn't right. Once it got going, the crowds appeared and he showed up at our last show and it felt just like, God, I just got chills thinking about when he came back there. He came back into the green room and he looked at us and the first thing he said was, "Welcome home, fellas." And we said, "Thank you, Mr. Grant." And I told him on stage, I was like, everything that you said turned out to be exactly what you said it was going to be. And as you said, Bob, to be a band that played a residency there for 3.5 years, at a place where anybody and everybody who wanted to go to Capricorn and be a Capricorn artist had to audition there first. The stage that the Marshall Tucker Band performed on and auditioned on is still there. That is the original stage at Grant's. They have renovated the building. It looks great. It is a phenomenal space, but that stage is still the same stage. And the ghosts are in that building. The energy of those artists are in that building. It's a phenomenal place with a lot of phenomenal stories of bands that made it and bands that didn't make it then, but turned out to be legendary artists. The the one that just I just die over is the fact that there was a band that came in to audition for them at Grant's, and they got on the stage and they said, what's your band name?" And the lead singer says, "Band name is Mud Crush." And they go, "Okay, cool." And they play for them. And at the end of the day, the people at Capricorn said, "Yeah, thanks, but no thanks. Don't really like the name. Don't really think it's going to be what it is." And they go, "Okay, thank you so much for your time." They go away and they come back as Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And that's how so to know Tom Petty's played that stage, like it's so much that has happened in that building. So like I said, once again, to be playing that music in that building is just an honor to do it anytime we get to.
Yeah, place matters. And, again, that's an important part of my toolkit as a historian, as a scholar, as a student of the world. The term I use, stole it from my buddies, Earth School, as a student and eternally in Earth School. Place matters. And like you say, you can feel it. And we're going to go across the street, if you will, just a little bit down the road. Yeah. I'll give some history for everybody. The Capricorn Studios closes when Capricorn goes bankrupt, late 70s, early 80s. At different times, they try to revive it. Eventually, the whole outside is in really bad shape, but the roof always stayed on the actual studio. So sometime, I guess, in about the last decade or so, big effort through Mercer University and through some private partnerships, they've completely restored Capricorn Studio. Beautiful room. I think they always called it Capricorn Studios, but there was only one ever.
There's only one. Yeah.
That's where the Allman Brothers recorded Brothers and Sisters. It's where they recorded Win, Lose, or Draw. It's where Marshall Tucker Band recorded their debut album, blah, blah, blah. The Macon Music Revue also recorded at Capricorn Studios.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the record a little bit. We talked about place. Obviously, that means something to you. I'm going to start with the first track.
Yep.
Little Richard's Greenwood, Mississippi. And I'm going to set you up with, you could have gone Tutti Frutti. You could have gone Keep a Knockin', But You Can't Come In. You could have gone anything. Lucille.
Yep.
You guys went with, this great comeback record from Muscle Shoals.
Yeah.
You called it a Southern rock record, and I love that. I love that analogy.
If you listen to it, like I said, and that's the reason why I fell in love with the album, The Real Thing, that he recorded down there. If you listen to that album, that is Little Richard's interpretation of his version of Southern rock. Because sonically, it is totally a 180 from what you would expect from a Little Richard album. You don't expect these these just nasty guitar solos. You don't expect this drum line that is just driving every single song on the album. So Greenwood, Mississippi is just one of those things where he is still that screamy, loud, high pitched, phenomenal singer, but behind him he has got this just the best way I can equate it, just this Southern rock sound behind him, and it completely to me now dominates what I think about Little Richard. I love his early stuff, but man, you give me that Richard that went down to Muscle Shoals, and I'll listen to that all day long. So with that one, like I said, we could have went a multitude of ways, but to start off the album, I think Greenwood is a great way to set up. If you have never been to a Macon Music Revue show, what's the first thing? What is the energy that you're going to get from our show? Greenwood sets it up perfectly, I believe.
That's a great statement. I would say, as a listener and as a guy who's attended a couple shows, yes, that is a fantastic. It's like the Allman Brothers beginning Fillmore East with Statesboro Blues, right? It's like, we are going to tell you who we are, and we are deep in the legacy. Mm-hmm. How familiar were you with the real thing, or that period of Richard? What is your familiarity with Little Richard?
So it was, like I said, I listened to a lot of Little Richard when I started working at the Creek radio station. We played a lot more of his stuff, and like I said, we played a lot of the early stuff, the Tutti Fruttis, the I Saw Her Standing There, Lucille's, all of that. I Can't Help It, all of that. But then I had a show with a good friend of mine who was with me, who's still here, but started the station with us, Anthony Ennis. We had an afternoon show on Fridays, and every Friday we would start off our show by playing Freedom Blues from that album. And that's where I found out about that album, was when we found that song. I went, excuse me? Like, this is a Little Richard I've never heard before. And Freedom Blues, we could have done Freedom Blues because we do that in our set. It's just this, like I said, it's to me the best version of Richard. The architect of rock and roll, he is that. But I love the fact that, as I told you before, he came back on that Real Thing album like he had a point to prove. Like somebody had made him mad. Like somebody had said, "Oh no, Richard, you can't do this no more." And Richard said, "Hold my makeup bag real quick. I'll be right back." and went to Muscle Shoals and recorded the Real Thing and showed them, no, I am just as good, if not better, than I was back in those days. Nothing's changed. I'm still the same dude. I'm just a different version of that. And that's when I really dug into the album, because, like I said, it's my favorite Little Richard album now of all time. Really.
It really fits, Charles, the way that I feel about the Allman Brothers. I'll say, like, Long Live the Allman Brothers Band is something I've been saying. It's on my brick at the big house. I've been saying this for 30 years because, and my premise is, Duane Allman died in 1971, but the band didn't die. And I'm really grateful for that, because you know why? That's why I'm talking to you today. Legit, right? It has made my life infinitely more interesting. And my point being, I discovered them in the 1990s, saw my first concert in 1993, because I was 7 months old when Duane died. 8 months old, So I discovered them through Little Richard's, the real, their version of The Real Thing, which was the albums they were putting out in the 90s. And there's so much to treasure. And this is why we're going to get into Otis and we'll get into Duane too. But there's so much to treasure in these later period records. And as I've gotten older, I've begun to appreciate them so much more. Like the records you're talking about with Little Richard, The Real Thing. Buddy of mine loves a very late period Johnny Johnson, Chuck Berry's pianist. Had a really great record in the 90s. Because you're seeing them in a whole different light. It's like Greg's Laid Back versus Southern Blood.
Yes.
That's a mature artist at the end of his life. Laid Back is a young man.
He's a young man
who's facing a whole lot of shit in his life and pours himself out in it.
Yeah, so, you're right about that.
And, I want to get this point in. There's a fantastic I Am Me. I forgot its name. I Am Me, the documentary on Little Richard. I will pump it all the time.
Yeah.
Because there's on The Real Thing, he is sweaty, full makeup, hair up. He's looking beautiful. And one of the things that movie address that I think is critical is he's a queer icon.
Yes.
And he ran from it, found Jesus. That was that time period, and ran away from it and struggled with with that entire thing, just like a lot of people do with sexuality. He pushed his gender lines, but I can only imagine what it was like to be queer in the 40s in Macon, and as poor as they were. I know the neighborhood they came from. I've driven, that there. How difficult that must have been for him to be that human.
Yeah, I mean, to be, as you said, if it would have just been him being black in Macon during that time, he had enough struggle with that alone. That would have been enough. But to add on the fact of how he felt about who he wanted to love in his life, on top of that, made it just that more difficult. And it shows you just the kind of resolve it had to have, the armor he had to wear every single time he stepped out of his door. Of course, this man is going to think he's the architect of rock and roll and everything he does is great, because everywhere else is telling him he's not. Everywhere else is telling me there's something wrong with me. He built this self-confidence about himself. He's like, no, I am amazing. I am beautiful. I can do whatever I want to do. And it just translates. And as I told you before, like you wouldn't have had a Prince, you wouldn't have had a Michael, you wouldn't have had a Lil Nas X, you wouldn't have had a Boy George, you wouldn't have had some of the artists that have been in this industry that have been given more leeway and freedom to be closer to what they are. If it were not for Richard taking every stone that was thrown at him for just being who he was at that time. And so, let alone for what he did musically,
right?
The life the man lived just being Richard Penniman. Forget Little Richard. Richard Penniman, the life that he led and the things that he did are enough to make him a legend no matter what.
Yeah. And, I'm going to say I love one of the things that I saw in y'all's sets, the Macon Music Revue, it's certainly reflected on the record, is it ain't just about Otis. It ain't just about the Allman Brothers. And the fact that you're using this later period Richard, I would call later period Richard song. I'm sure he recorded, but I mean, from a banger album, Muscle Shoals is just great. So then we're going to skip, because you already mentioned him a little bit, but we did this last time.
Yeah.
I mean, Swamp Dogg, ending the album with Total Destruction of Your Mind. Swamp Dogg.
Yeah.
Let's talk to me about tell people about Swamp Dogg. Like, let's talk a bit about this man's genius, and you have a personal kind of connection that ties it all together.
Yeah. So so Swamp Dogg, he never recorded at Capricorn, but he did a lot of production work down there. So phenomenal songwriter, phenomenal singer in his own right. But like I said, I was really first introduced to Swamp Dogg after watching the Mike Judge show, Tales from the Tour Bus, where they did a Johnny Paycheck episode. And I realized that Swamp Dogg wrote my favorite Johnny Paycheck song, Don't Take Her, She's All I Got, because that's a great song. But in the very initial of the band, and when we were forming our original set list, we had a Swamp Dogg song in the set we were doing, Synthetic World. Great song. But our drummer, Caleb Melvin, was like, we really ought to do Total Destruction to Your Mind. And I went, okay, I'll listen to it. I kind of dismissed it a little bit. And then I listened to it. And I listened to it again and again and again and again. And what I realized so much about that song is that he is talking about things that he saw in the 70s that were happening around him. And strangely enough, those same things are happening now. So to sing that song now makes absolute sense. It is the probably most psychedelic song we do in our entire set. It is the most raucous we get in a set. And I think it was a great way to end the album. We started the album with Greenwood. We ended it with Total Destruction. And it's just, once it gets going, it is going. And it is a monster of a song. Love doing this.
Swamp Dogg is fascinating for, you talk about genre bending, right? Crossing rhythm and blues and country and, soul music and some Southern rock sounding stuff.
Yeah.
I gotta imagine there's a whole bunch of Swamp Dogg in loops that people are making and tracks people are still making today. Because I mean, even though it's all psychedelic, and of course it's not all psychedelic, right?
It's
The
not
track
all,
you guys talking about is psychedelic, but there's a lot there. And he's still pumping out records.
He's still dropping records. He just dropped there's a documentary on him. I think it's called Swamp Dogg Paints His Pool. Because that's when he came to Macon to debut the documentary a few years ago at the Macon Film Festival, and that was the opportunity he got to hear our version of Total Destruction. And if I'm correct in what the story was told to me, he was like, people do too much with that song, but he liked the way we did it, and we didn't take it too far, and we did it just the amount that it needed to go. And I went, okay, cool, I can deal with that. As long as he likes it, I'm good with it. Like it is, I never want to do a song where the artist that originated came back to me and goes, I really didn't appreciate how you did my song. Like that would hurt me to my core. So to know that Swamp Dogg likes the version of Total Destruction to Your Mind, that makes me happy.
I mean, that's some great validation always, right? When an artist who you're paying homage to, like when you're playing their song, right? And for them to say, I dig what you're laying down, that's great. So we're gonna push to the next one. We're gonna do we got the bookends.
Yeah.
We got Otis, Mr. Pitiful, you're still gonna come out banging, and then at the bottom, at the back end, you got These Arms of Mine.
Yeah.
But in between time, we have the what does it take to be a singer that's going to tackle and listen, I'm not here to blow smoke up your butt. I like you're a good singer. I know you're a good singer. Your audience does, etc. Otis is not someone you tackle lightly.
No.
No. You
not
can't just, and you can cover him in Macon. You can sing him, but you still, it's Otis Redding. You're going to put 2 songs on record, so you've made that decision. You know, I'd like to ask you about that, and then but there's something else going on with Otis.
Yeah, no, it's a like I said, like I told you, Otis Redding is one of those artists where if you're gonna sing Otis, you better sing him right. I treat him just like I treat Whitney Houston stuff. Like you can't sing, if you can't sing, don't sing Whitney Houston stuff. If you can't sing, don't try to do Otis because it's not gonna go out the way you want it to. What I also figured out is in this town, people will come to town and they'll do like the Brothers and they'll do all of that. But people don't come into this town and sing Otis. Like big artists don't do that. I think it's because they realize what they're walking into if they do that. The family is still here. They go to shows. Like, so they're gonna know if you have destroyed his music. So I got the opportunity to okay, I'm doing it again. I'm going to tell 2 stories today. I got the opportunity to meet Otis Redding's grandson, Justin Andrews, in Macon, and we became friends. And another friend of mine was doing some production work for the Otis Redding Music Camp. And it's one of the best camps in the absolute world. They take kids who have never done music and kids that have done music. And in 3 weeks, they can take a kid who has never written a song in their life to performing it on stage in front of hundreds of people in 3 weeks. And not only teach them how to write music, play music, but how to understand the business of music. Because if Selma Redding ain't going to teach you nothing else, she's going to teach you about the business of how to protect yourself and do what you need to do. So 1 year they're at camp and we're at Mercer University and I'm there helping out. And my friend Anthony asked me to sing a little bit of Try a Little Tenderness in this amphitheater that's at Mercer. So there's nobody there. He picks up his phone. He records me singing the beginning of the song. He takes that video and he posts it to Facebook. Okay. I'm not paying attention to it, Bob. I pick up my phone the next morning and there's a message from Carla Redding Andrews on there. And it says, why the hell are you singing in an empty auditorium? Why am I just not figuring out about this? Why haven't you done this at camp? You know you're coming back to camp to do this, right? And I went, yes, ma'am. So that very same day, because you don't keep her waiting, I go back to camp and you know how in movies when like the special guest appears or like an angel or something and the doors open and the smoke comes in and the lights get bright and things like that. Well, that's how I saw Zelma Redding for the first time as she walks into the building, right? She walks in, she sits to the right-hand side of the auditorium. I walk on stage and I start singing Try Lieutenant. Now, I'm staring straight out and I start singing. I look over to my left, singing. I start looking over to my right, and as soon as I get Zelma Redding in my peripheral, I stop turning my head because I can't sing Try Lieutenant looking at Zelma Redding. So I finish singing the song. The kids love it, all of that. I see Zelma, and she waves me over. And so I walk over to her, and she goes, "You did a real good job, baby." And I said, "Thank you, Miss Zelma." And Bob, I floated out of that building the rest of the day because for Zelma Redding, once again, for Zelma to tell me that I did a good job, that means something because that's her husband's song. So, not knowing that she was going to give me a much bigger gift than her telling me that, because after that point, my relationship with the family grew. I got to host one of the Evening of Respect that they do for him every year here in town. And then on a random Saturday, I get a call from one of my good friends, Justin Andrews, her grandson. And he says, "Hey, my grandma want to talk to you." And I'm like, "Why does everyone want to talk to me?" "Well, she got something to ask you and she's been talking about it forever. And she's like, I need to talk to Charles." So I gave her your phone number. "Okay, Justin." So I hang up the phone with him. I'm standing there waiting. My phone rings. I don't know the number. I walk out of my front door and I sit on my steps. And I pick up the phone and she goes, "Hey, baby, this is Miss Zelma." I said, "Hey, Miss Zelma, how are you?" "I'm good, baby. Listen, I got this idea and it's something I want you to do. I want you to record some of Otis's stuff. Now, I don't want you to do Dreams to Remember. I don't want you to do Sit on Dock of the Bay. I don't want you to do none of that. I want you to go through his catalog and I want you to find 2 or 3 songs that you want to record. And I'll produce it. I'll make sure that it gets paid for. We'll get it recorded. We'll put it out. I'll handle all of that. But I want to do this for you. I want you to do this." And I probably sat there for probably about 15 seconds in silence. And she goes, "Baby, did you hear me?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I heard you. I'm just trying to process what you just told me." And she said, "Yeah, babe, I want to do this for you. So you just let me know. You come on over to the foundation and we'll get you set up." I hang up the phone. I immediately called Justin back. And I was like, "Justin, did you know what your grandma was going to ask me?" He was like, "Yeah, I knew." He was like, "Why didn't you tell me?" He was like, "Because she wanted to tell you." I said, "Okay, cool."
Wow.
Thanks for leaving me out of the loop for that. But then I asked him this too. And I said, "Bruh, how many people has she given that access to?" And he goes, "None, really." And I'm like, okay. And she did. She opened up the vaults for me. There's no Otis song I can't do. Whenever I decide that I want to record these songs, she's ready for it. She has given me that. And to know that she doesn't give that to artists that are established, like to people who could really do something with this. She's given that access to me. And I cherish that. And that's probably the reason why we do 2 songs on the album. We do so many more Otis songs than that. But we will forever honor the legacy of what they have laid down and what they have done for us as a band. So I am forever grateful to that family. Forever grateful.
We could say it begins with Little Richard, and it does. Of course, he doesn't make his fame out of Macon. It begins with Otis,
Yeah.
and Phil Walden. You got to get the white hustler
Otis
who can help the black dude.
If it was because at the time, Bob, Otis could not have become what he became without Phil. Because at that time, there was no way for a black man to be able to do that. He had to have that. Luckily enough, he found one that he found, and he got a Phil Walden, and the 2 of them being able to navigate those waters during that time is amazing.
Yeah, Walden, I think if you were to look at the contracts he had with Otis, were probably very fair to Walden and unfair to Otis. And I think there were some discussions towards the end of Otis's life to get out of it. That certainly happened with the Allman Brothers and everything else. However, you can't also say that he wasn't using the money he was making, investing back into trying to break and make these bands happen. the Allman Brothers and Otis included. But without Otis, without that studio, I want to acknowledge Capricorn Studio began as Red Wall Studio.
Yes,
Otis never recorded there. That I know of, but he was, you had mentioned the family had said, and it's one of those what ifs. Any artist that dies young, you have these what ifs, right? What if Dwayne Allman had not died in the motorcycle accident? What if Barry Oakley hadn't? What if Otis hadn't gotten? What if Buddy Holly hadn't gotten on the damn plane, right?
Really.
So you mentioned though, you've asked the family, you have your own thoughts about where Otis was going, but the studio Capricorn, that became Capricorn Redwall, was a part of the next step for Otis. I mean, he had
that was his vision.
Phenomenal success at Monterey. He had recorded Dock of the Bay before he died, obviously before he died, but it had not been released. They had the studio. So where was Otis? Where do you think Otis was heading at that? So, what is your and theirs, families?
So digging this story? I know you are. Head to longlivetheabb.com, hit subscribe there. Maybe upgrade to a paid membership. Vitamin ABB. Trust me, I'm a doctor.
So, it was, as we said before, to lose him at the age that we lost him, but especially to lose him at the spot that he was. Like I said, he was coming off Monterey. An entire different genre had just found out about him, and he was about to completely explode. And that's the reason why Dock of the Bay sounds the way that it sounds. It has this broader feel to it. It doesn't feel like an R&B song. It's because Otis was coming out of that. He was ready to make music that had a broader appeal to it. And so, he was in the process. Red Wall, that studio, they were building that, and we lost him. And so, I've asked his grandson Justin multiple times, especially when we were hosting a show together. And I asked him, I was like, what was your grandfather going to do? What was his next step? And the things that Otis loved was music and education and with kids. So he was going to focus on that. But Otis was about to move into the production side. Otis was about to start putting out artists. And I just have this feeling that I think Otis probably would have done maybe one or two more albums. And then O would have stepped back. And he would have became what I feel like Chet Atkins became. Like the producer, the taste maker of what was happening in town. And I think that was his next step. I think cultivating sounds versus him being the main entity in it was, I think, part of his next step in the evolution of what he was going to become. And there's no telling what he could have created during that time. No telling.
When I had your walk-up music before, I was playing Otis at Monterey just because it's I don't think he would have ever stopped performing. I don't know that any artist with that, but it's a grind to tour. Touring's a grind.
Yes, it is.
Touring kills people. It killed Otis, right? So wanting to get off the road, to step back, he also had young children. Clearly he and Zelma had an incredible relationship that has endured. And, in thinking about, you talk about Otis loved music and he loved education, right? He loved children. He loved education. And, big, important part of his generation, educational achievement was a really, really, really important part.
Yes, it was.
It still is. I'm not saying it's not anymore.
But during that time, especially with African Americans, it was the only way
out.
You were going to get out is if you had a good education. So that the focus on education was huge in the community at the time. It just was.
The first thing newly freed people did was start churches and schools. The very first thing they did.
First thing.
And so that, it's interesting. And it's interesting legacy because Zelma has done that with her work. And two of the pickers in the band on the record, I know that Dustin has moved on, but are legacies like Will the Circle Be Unbroken? The Carter family gave us that song. We all sing it. It's a memory of when things are fine again. That leaves a very unbroken circle that they're playing Otis Redding songs on this record at Capricorn, having come through his camp pipeline.
Dustin McCook, like I said, who is, like I said, is as much a part of this band as he was before. He's just Dustin. As I've always said, Dustin McCook is one of the best guitar players I've ever been around. and it was going to be hard to hold on to him like that. And so he's gotten these great opportunities that we were not going to stand in his way and
Yeah.
and step in front of. And we've just been so lucky to have Danny Chikero step in and do a phenomenal job and become just as a part of this thing as it is. So Dustin might not play with us anymore right now, but we just saw him. He was just with us a couple days ago when we had a show. So we saw him. Everything's good there. But yeah, Dustin McCook and Evan Bensel, the babyface gangster with the alligator boots, they both came out of the Otis Redding music camp. And like I said, to me, it is one of the greatest music camps in the world for what they are able to teach kids. Like I said, not just about how to play music, but how to be in the music business, because it is that. And they teach them what they need to do to survive in the music business. And it could be just as big of a testament to them teaching them about the music than teaching them how to survive in the industry.
Yeah, and something I've seen with all three of them, Dustin, who I don't know as well, Danny, who I take guitar lessons from, and we're pals, and Evan, who's also a friend. They're all making a living playing music.
Yeah,
but not as super road dogs like the Allman Brothers had to, or like Otis had to.
Yeah.
And when I was coming up, I'm 55 now, so it's been a while now.
Yeah.
My choice, I made an intentional choice. I can either hang out with these guys and haul a U-Haul around on my 2-week vacation, or I can do my career and be with my wife and start a family. There was no in-between ground that I understood that I could still make music and do stuff. So, the Music Academy, the fact that you have this, or Music Camp, I'm sorry, and then the fact that you have like this pipeline, those cats are doing that. I know Ethan is too. I don't know Caleb's thing, but I've seen those guys in, the Restless Natives and other ensembles. It's just a cool, Charles. It's just a cool, look at how it works when you have this open soul and open spirit, like Otis did, and like Mr. Zelma does, and has continued to.
It is, like I said, it is to be surrounded by, like you said, working musicians. I'd always heard that being told before, but then never really understood what it means to try to have that balance and to want to have the dream of performing the music like you want to, like you see in your head, like you've had in your dreams all your life, but to understand that life stands there as well, that life, you have to figure that out too, and to find the balance between that. So yeah, it is great to have men on my side that, are just great musicians and know how to navigate that as we go through it, because like you said, nobody wants to burn out on this thing, because that's when you lose the love for it. And I don't think I ever want to lose the love of doing this. And so it might make you readjust. As you said, you might just readjust your dream. You don't give up on your dream. You don't cancel your dream. Your dream just readjusts a little bit when your priorities readjust. And you can still find a way to get everything that you want out of it and live while doing it. I guess that's the easiest way to say that.
And that is, for those, those gents, Dustin and Evan, to understand that. I mean, I'm going to tell you, Evan and I have had some conversations, about, he asked me flat out, what do you think of college? And I said, dude, I mean, I got my PhD part-time. I got my master's degree part-time.
Yeah.
Like college can you're just do it, man. That sort of stuff. But understanding too, I got to be sober when I go on stage and I got to perform. And then if I want to hang out with my buddies afterwards, I could do that. Those basic lessons. Fortunately, you guys aren't on we're going straight to the top trajectory, which allows everybody to be like, okay, this is what we want. This is what we want to do.
It's a little bit easier of a transition for us to get to the level that we want to be at. Like I said, with this band, like our North Star is the Preservation Hall Jazz Band of New Orleans. Like that is, if we could get to that point to where they are, that's a good place to be, because they're internationally known. They travel the world. They get to do their thing. But they also have outside gigs and also do other things. So I think that's what we were wanting this thing to evolve into. We're getting there. We're starting to stretch outside of the South and start to play some different places out West and things like that. and to be able to have that type of career. But yeah, to know that I've got, like I said, absolute professionals on stage when we know, yeah, we can have a good time off stage, we'll party, we'll do all that, but when it's time to hit the stage, oh yeah, we're ready to go. And
You got killers.
That's a great thing.
You got killers.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't let it go without saying, all right, you chose Mr. Pitiful. That was your upbeat tune.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about like that choice. Otis, we're going to go back. We'll pivot back to Otis. Let's talk about, so we got the upbeat tune at the beginning, and then if you want to segue yourself into the ballad at the end, These Arms of Mine.
Yeah.
You could do any Otis song except for Dock of the Bay. Maybe Respect. I don't know, but we didn't want the obvious ones.
No, we didn't want the obvious ones. It's like we said, when we're out of town, we can do that kind of stuff because that's the stuff that people want to hear. But for an album of us, if we're going to showcase ourselves, let's show both sides of what Otis was. Mr. Pitiful is this poppy, upbeat, cocky song about him being pitiful, but everybody knows him. Like how can, like, what is that about? You can't be pitiful and be that famous at the same time, my guy.
And that good looking.
That's what I'm saying. Come on, my dude. Like, you pitiful? Like, come on.
Unfair.
Let's be real about that. That's not right. So yeah, to have him be just this vulnerable but yet cocky, poppy, bouncy track with Mr. Pitiful is a great one. And then, like you said, towards the back end of the album, we go into These Arms of Mine, and that one shows off, to me, Otis's range, the way he can open up and sing. And anytime Otis sings a love song, you feel it. Like, he called himself the love man for no reason. Like, there's a reason behind that. There's a reason that he's looked upon like that, because when Otis sings a love song, you know he means it. He's not sugarcoating. It's not a fake love that he's talking about. That love is coming from a place that is deep, and we know where it's coming from. It's coming from his love of Zelma, and that, just tie between the two of them has lasted through life into the afterlife with the two of them. Yep. And you can tell that when he sings a song like These Arms of Mine. And so yeah, that was our way of showing off that we could have done some other Otis tracks. I think for that album we hadn't really locked in our version of Try a Little Tenderness yet, and that's the reason why that one didn't make the album. Because now, like, Try a Little Tenderness has always been one of my favorite songs, but it has become one of the staples that we keep in the set list for most time, just because of the way we do it and the way we attack that song. And so, but yeah, for that one, yeah, it was a good mix to have one really upbeat Otis song and then have something that's a little more laid back on the back end.
And you said in the set you put those two songs typically back together.
Greenwood and Pitiful is normally a back-to-back track, because what it normally does, like I said before, it sets up kind of what we're about. You get, like I said, this southern rocky kind of feel with Little Richard, and then we give you some old classic R&B and soul right there, and it's a mix of the two that's going to lead you through the rest of the set with us. So that's why we normally set up the show like that when we open with those two, and then that's definitely the reason we wanted to set up the album like that.
Okay. All right, I'm going to skip ahead.
Okay, skip ahead.
We're going to spill out. You do know what's coming, but I'm going to set it up this way because this is the observation. REM is a little bit of a let's to call the Percy Sledge song out of left field, a little bit of a left field track.
Yeah.
And because I'll say I mean, I'll never be truly happy with my definition of what is and what isn't Southern rock.
Yeah.
I mean, I wrote it in the book. I talk about it. People argue about it all the time. I really don't care.
Yeah.
But the music of REM, the music of the B-52s, anybody coming out of Athens is different than the music of Macon.
Yes.
In that it's got a punk influence and not the blues or rhythm and blues or country influence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You took a song that has a country, it's got the mandolin in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very happy pop song.
Yeah.
And you said, these lyrics, it's like when I listen to your version, I'm like, man, these lyrics are really, they're feeling this, not what I hear on the other. So talk about the choice of the song and then the arrangement. How does the arrangement come together? Talk about REM, etc.
So yeah, we that was one of the songs we had in our set to kind of in the master set list to show, like I said, we'll play music from the past. And as we were just kind of moving through the decades of making connections, Mike
And I
Mills.
should say, Mike Mills and Bill Berry are from Macon. I apologize.
Macon.
I jumped in on you.
No,
So there is a connection.
There is a direct connection.
I didn't sew that thread well. There is a Macon connection.
Yeah.
It's just not, you look and you go, wow.
Yeah. No, it is
like,
what
I
you
can't
said.
even
Like,
picture it on the thing when I see the track list.
Yeah, Mike Mills went to Northeast High School here in Macon, Georgia, and like I said, they didn't make their beginning here in Macon. REM became REM in Athens. So yeah, you're absolutely right in your definition, I believe, of that. But "Losing My Religion" was a song that we put on our set list, and in the beginning, I was a little worried about it because I was like, I don't want to sing this song like the record. I don't, because to me, and like I said before, I get the reason why REM did it how they did it. You take this very poppy arrangement with these very deep lyrics and you merge them together to get the "Losing My Religion" that you got. So the juxtaposition of the two is amazing. But if we were going to do it, I wanted to do it differently, and I didn't want to sing it like that. Like, I don't sound like Michael Stipe, so there's no need for me to try to sing it like him. If I'm going to sing the song, I need to sing the song like me. And so we were playing around with the tempo in the very beginning of us just working it out. And Caleb was messing with the drum pattern and just kind of slowing it down a little bit. And then the guitars kind of kicked in, then the bass kicked in, and they were just kind of grooving on this kind of not super slow groove, but it was just this groove that was created. And I was like, ooh, I like that. And then I started singing it over it. And as soon as I got to the first hook of it, I went, that's how we're doing the song. Like, that's how we're doing this. And I think we knew that when people heard it, we were going to get one of two reactions. Either they were going to love it or want to run us out of the building for playing it that way. And from the first time people heard us do that version, after the show, that's the first thing that they say is, oh my God, y'all's version of "Losing My Religion." That is such a great version. Once again, Mike Mills has heard our version of it. He says it's good. Okay, I'm happy. I have no issue with it. Lisa Love, our manager, sent it to Mike, and they've heard it, and they dig it. And so it's, like I said, it's, once again, it circles all the way back to what I was saying before. Like, when you're playing music and the artists that originated dig what you're doing, because Mike could have said he didn't like it. Mike could have said, why did y'all change up our version like that? He didn't. He dug what we were doing. He dug how we took it and made it more of a soul song, to where, in my opinion, you feel it when I sing, that's me in the corner, that's me in the spotlight, losing my religion. Like, that's not a happy feeling. That's some weight, dog, trying to get over you, and I don't know how to do it. Like, that's pain in that song, dog. And I just wanted to make sure that the pain, if you did not feel the pain in the poppy version, oh, you gonna feel it now. You gonna feel it when I get through singing it. So it's just great. I love it. Like I said, it's one of my favorite songs to sing, and it is the song on the album where people just go, okay, I like what y'all did, but this one here, this one's a little different, because we do it differently than what the album is, and that's a great one.
There's a trend in television shows, it has been, right, to take a song like that and put it, take a popular song, take a cover that's completely out of whack, or, a lot of times they'll do like minor key versions, or the whole, those weird vocal and things. But I mean, it is the type of cover that could get thrown at the end of a series and get a lot of attention. And it's because, like, it's in the tradition of Dwayne and Wilson Pickett doing "Hey Jude." It's in the tradition of Aretha Franklin, also with Dwayne, doing "The Wait." Putting your own stamp on a great song. And that's why Mike Mills would like it. It's why Bob Beatty likes it, you know?
Yeah. I appreciate that. Because it does, like I said, it's you can take a really classic song and mess it up very quickly if you don't approach it the right way. And we were just happy that the approach that we've taken on it has worked out. And that sounds
so. if you were documenting arrangement credits on that, is that a full band effort on the arrangement then? Did anybody come in and say, let's tackle it this way?
No, I think
that was a rehearsal.
It was literally
slow
a
it
rehearsal.
down.
Like
slow
legit
it down.
Bob, legit Bob, I was standing outside smoking a cigarette and heard them messing around with it and didn't say anything and just kind of was bopping along as I listened to it. And then as soon as I walked back in the door, it was like, okay, whatever y'all are doing here, yeah, let's just run with this and then everything else kind of filled its way out. But yeah, I would say that was a total band just out of a rehearsal type of an arrangement that came out.
The way it needs to be.
Yeah, it was a good film.
Some of the best stuff happens, when you're doing that.
Yeah.
Looking again at the rest of the list, and I want to mention. You said there are like 5 artists that are in every set. You'll do Little Richard, Otis. You'll do the Allman Brothers, Marshall Tucker, and Wet Willie.
Yeah.
All but Marshall Tucker are on this list. We don't need to talk about why not. But you've got for the Allman Brothers, you do Stand Back, which is a unique.
Yeah.
Somewhat underappreciated. The guitarists all think it's the greatest thing ever because that's. Dwayne even said it was his greatest guitar solo, slide solo.
Yeah.
Quick note that is not J-Mo's solo on drums, but it's mostly J-Mo on drums. One of the only tracks where J-Mo is featured more prominently rather than as part of the ensemble. So, Stand Back is your Allman Brothers song on the record.
Yeah. It is the we do a Greg Allman. We do Queen of Hearts. That is on the
Queen of Hearts is on the record. Yeah, I was going to get to that too. And that was recorded in that room.
Yeah. So we'll come to that. But yeah, Stand Back is a great track. It is one that the Restless Natives, like I said, you talked to, like I said, Evan and Ethan and Danny, who's in that. It's a great track, and they were the ones who brought that one in to be able to record. I love that song because it's one of the ones that, like I said, that encompasses what the Allman Brothers Band feels like without you having to go to the absolute classics that every top 100 radio station has played before. It evokes memories of Whipping Post. It has pieces of what you love from Midnight Rider and Ramblin' Man and all of that stuff. It has pieces of that in Stand Back. And so, like I said, especially with us trying to showcase some of the deeper cuts of all of these groups, Stand Back is one of those that we always go back to as a standard because it just, once it gets going, like Stand Back is a killer track when you get into it.
It's a funky. I mean, that J-Mo's drums, that backbeat on that.
Yeah.
And that motherfucker is.
It drives and it bounces. And we've been playing that song a little while now, and Kirk West, phenomenal tour mystic of the brothers. He's seen us perform a couple of times, and the first time he saw us do Stand Back, he came back and said, "Oh my God, your guys did a great job. You play Stand Back too fast, right?" And we went, "Yeah, Kirk, sorry, we did jump it a little bit." But once again, it's one of those things where Kirk West can say that to me because he's heard that song 8 million times. He's been around the brothers. If you've been around him like that, you can tell me that it's played too fast, and we will listen to it.
And I think he knows it ain't gonna hurt your feelings that you guys, you've already proven yourself to the tour mystic.
Yeah.
Tedeschi Trucks, Derek and Warren did a bunch of Stand Back this past fall when they toured together.
Okay.
And they were you talk about Swamp Dogg going into that psychedelic territory.
Yeah.
They were taking that thing out like I wish the Allman Brothers could have with Dwayne. Like it was just like, that's a funky ass song.
Yeah, it is.
For sure.
I love me some Derek. We've had the opportunity to have some interaction with them. Last year when they came to Macon to perform at the Atrium Health Amphitheater, it was right around the time of Kirk West's 80th birthday party, and he had his birthday party at the Big House. And Kirk wanted us to be the band that performed for his 80th. So we were there. It was like a day before. Yeah, it was the night before the concert. And so we're there, and I'm sitting in my car, and Evan Bensel walks up to my car, and he goes, "I just want to let you know that car sitting in front of you, that's Derek and Susan." And I went, "Okay. Do we have a Tedeschi song?" song on the set tonight? Yeah, we do. Okay, cool. So we get up there, and right before the show starts, Kirsten, Kirk's lovely wife, waves me over, and Kirk is talking to Derek, and Kirsten's talking to Susan, and I get introduced. Hey, Susan, love to meet you. I think you're badass. I love you so much, Derek. I bow in your presence. And Kirsten goes, "Oh my God, Susan! You know they do a wonderful version of Do I Look Worried? They absolutely do a great version." And Susan goes, "Oh, you do?" And I went, "Yes, ma'am. It's on the set list if you want us to do it." And she said, "I would love to hear it." And I went, "Okay." And so we got there and we did Do I Look Worried to You, and yeah, we get off stage and Susan walks up to me, and God, it feels like I'm bragging when I say this, and I don't do this all the time, Bob. She walks up to me and she hugged me. She said, "Oh my God, y'all did such a good job. I would love to sing with you one day." And I went, "Susan, don't tell me that, because I will email you every single day for the rest of my life to follow up on that." I walked up to Derek, and Derek said he loved it too. And it was, like I said, it's just that whole ADD family, every iteration of it is just amazing. So yeah, I know Derek and Warren probably do a kick-ass version of that song.
You guys are, I think one of the things about Derek that I've recognized from the beginning, and of course it is his family, this is legit his legacy. For you and me, it is an inherited family that we are a part of because we pursue the music, we listen to it, I write about it, talk about it, etc. There's a reverence for that part of it, the family aspect, the past that he has, Warren has always had as well. It's something that Macon has kind of nurtured. And I've always respected that from them, from that, like you said, that whole family and that whole family tree. And I'll share a quick story with you for me. My moment like that. In 2023, so the book came out in October of 2022. So January, the Big Band of Brothers toured with J-Mo played. My buddy Drew Smithers, who's now with Marcus King, was in the band. And Lamar Williams Jr. was a vocalist for them. And so I know Drew from around here. And so I got back after the show, and I'm talking with Drew, and somebody says my name, and J-Mo goes, I hear him from the dressing room. He goes, "Bob Beatty, you're an observant motherfucker." And then he proceeds to grab my book and says, "You know what's so great about this book? You know what you got exactly right?" "I don't know, J-Mo, please tell me." But yes. He goes, "Allman Brothers didn't just play black music like they were pretending. They believed it. They knew it. There was no, and that's a big part of the argument of my book was there was, and I'm not saying colorblind. I don't put that as bullshit.
Yeah.
But there was a blurring of the color line that was very intentional on their part that J-Mo recognized. And that's why this jazz man threw his lot in with these hippies. The music was jazz. He could play jazz within this thing. And that was his main argument. And he told me I got it right. And remember, jazz men, right? To be observant to a jazz man is a big deal, right?
Yeah, it is.
To be called a motherfucker by a jazz man,
another thing. That's a whole other thing.
I may actually tattoo that on my body somewhere.
You might as well, just for history's sake.
Observant motherfucker. Johnny Johnson.
No, J-Mo made me cry, dog. So like when they did the Capricorn Revival show, it was right after they renovated Capricorn Sound Studios, and they decided they were going to throw this big concert here in Macon, just highlighting everything that was going on over there. And like everybody was here. Like Chuck Lavelle was the musical director for it, and everybody showed up. I think Drew was here for that. Dwayne Bez, Brent Cobb, Taj Mahal, Jimmy Hall. I got to sing with Bonnie Bramlett that night. But I got invited to sing on that show. And at the end of my part that because I sang Only You Know and I Know with Bonnie Bramlett. And we got done, and J-Mo was backstage. And J-Mo looked at me, walked up, and said, "Hey, young man." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You did a damn good job." And I said, "Thank you, J-Mo. I appreciate it. Bob, I walked outside and cried, dog. I walked outside and cried because I couldn't take it. Like right before Jimmy Hall had just said he appreciated what I did. And I was like, thank you, Jimmy. But then for J-Mo to say he was proud of me for what I did, like I walked outside and cried like a baby for like 10 minutes because I couldn't handle it. I couldn't because of, like you said, for him to say that to you, anybody else could have told me that and I'd have been fine. Oh, thank you so very much. I greatly appreciate you. For that man to say that to me, that's a whole nother ball of wax.
Again, they don't even have to say anything.
No.
So they could, if they didn't dig it, they just, wouldn't even share anything.
And keep it moving.
And it's really great validation because, where your heart is, I recognize as an artist, right? You're like, you are putting yourself out there. Now you have a lot of training leading up to this on stage. Like you have developed your craft very well. But the validation, and it's tough also to receive validation in the moment. You're just like,
yes, especially just walking off stage. Like,
because you're high already. You're already feeling that there.
Here. Yeah, the veil is already thin on my emotions already because like even through all of that, through all the theater that I've done, Bob, I still get nervous before a show. I get nervous for every single show that I do. I don't understand it sometimes. I don't get why I get nervous. But my friend Kim would always tell me it's because you care about it. That's the reason why you're nervous, because you don't want to get out there and not do a good job. And to put a microphone in your hand and to stand in front of people and sing is a very vulnerable thing to do. To perform is a very vulnerable thing to do. And anytime you do that, you add a little bit more to your repertoire. You add a little more courage to your stocks. But to have a legend tell you that you did it good, that'll do.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you've been blessed by, I was going to say the Trinity. I can't think of who the third one is, but if you got Zelma and J-Mo, you've been blessed by the Macon Macon gods, goddesses, etc.
It is. Bob. Like I said, like I told you before, had you told me 12 years ago that Zelma Redding told me I could record any older song that I wanted to do, J-Mo told me tell me that I've done a good job, the legends of Southern rock that have come to see our shows and, like you said, actually say they like what we're doing when they can just be silent and keep moving because they don't have to tell me anything. You're right. It is. I've been absolutely blessed. Absolutely blessed.
That term gets overwrought, but I can certainly feel it from you. You hear some people say that, but I'm like, you've had this journey, and I recognize a fellow traveler, and when I'm out in the world, and I hear you tell the stories on stage. I recognize, you've got stories. You've got some rehearsal because you got to know the stories that you're telling. There's a heart there that comes out, and y'all are interpreters of this important legacy. I think we touched on this. I don't think we've touched on it this part of the conversation again. But your choices are Macon or like Macon related, adjacent, super adjacent, etc. So you take a broad brush with that, which I think again you have to. There's no purist anything. Like you got to play a set people want to hear, people want to dig. They got to have some familiar things for people to hang their hats on. Talk about like outside of the biggies. Talk about some of the other things that you like to do. Who are some of your favorites that y'all have that you've discovered or that you've seen people hip to?
Okay. Like I said, the ones that we get, like I said, the Losing My Religion, every time we play that, people lose their minds about that. I love singing that song. But the ones that I've discovered that I love singing now, like I said, we had Muscle Shoals guitarist Kelvin Holly come play with us a couple months ago, and that's when we did Boz Scaggs' Loan Me a Dime, and I fell in love with that song. I love singing that song now. The version of Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out that Dwayne and Greg do, I fell in love with singing that song. Like when I really, I will sing a song to a certain standard every time I sing it. Okay. That's just how I am about it. I'm not going to waver with that. But there's certain songs that hit a little harder for me, and I sing a little harder and the emotions hit me. And that one does. Because nobody knows you when you're down and out. I always tell people, if you've lived a life worth anything, you've had days like this to where, I once lived the life of a millionaire. Yeah, I had it all. And then I lost it. And when I lost it, wasn't nobody there. So what did I learn? Don't nobody love you when you're down and out. Nobody does. And that song hits me. Thinking about it now, it's got me feeling a certain kind of way. Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out is one of my favorite songs to sing. Woman Lover Friend, the version that Otis does, I love singing that song because the horns are in it. Sam and Dave's Hold On, I'm Coming is a great one because Macon Connection, Newton Collier, horn player, toured with Sam and Dave for 15 years. And he still lives in this community, and we see Newt all the time. And so to play that song is great because the horns are great. The song drives like nobody's business. We brought up the Marshall Tucker Band, and you talked about it not making the album. We recorded probably 20 songs for the album. We recorded probably my favorite one to do from the Tucker Band, which is Ramblin'. I love singing that song because it's a freight train, and once it goes, it's gone. But I love singing that song. I love singing Take the Highway because it's a great one. And that song allows the band to kind of get some shine because the solos in that one are so great as well. There's one that I'm missing. I love singing all the songs. There's one song that Hey Jude, the Pickett, Dwayne Allman version of it, because you mentioned it before. Like, to me, I like their version more than the Beatles version.
Oh, me too.
I just do. And singing that song just puts me in a place. I have probably cried more times on stage singing that song than I've done any other. Because when I get to thinking about it in the midst of singing that song, it just, something happens. Something comes over me when I sing that song, and it hits entirely too hard. So like I said, I love a ton of the songs that we do. I love singing She's Got the Katie from Taj Mahal. Like, I love singing that song. Like, I love, but the ones that I mentioned before, those hit me a little harder because when I get to singing those, I get to thinking about things. When I get thinking about things, my brother gets emotional and
the emotion comes out.
Yeah.
And listen, Hey Jude is, again, I've said this multiple times in this conversation. Otis is where it starts, but Hey Jude is where Phil Walden found his next Otis.
Yeah.
Found his next artist to hitch his wagon to.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is the song really around which the legacy, because Otis would, without the Capricorn legacy, things just stay probably pretty underground. Because Macon's in the middle of nowhere. So I don't think I've ever heard you play Hey Jude. I did record y'all doing Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out when you were here in Nashville last year and that's up. I put that up on YouTube. I'll put that in the show notes because it was like, the interesting versions of covers you do. I find the Sea Level Shake a Leg to be so cool. I know you don't sing on that one, but
no, that's me. That's me on that. That's me singing on that.
You're singing on that.
Yeah, that's me.
Well, damn. I think that's a, of course you said you've met Jimmy Hall, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I looked over Grits Ain't Groceries.
Yes. Yeah. You think about Grits,
and Chuck, of course, is an American treasure. He's not just a Macon treasure. He is an American treasure.
Yeah, I love Chuck. The first time I ever met Chuck, I was selling him TVs. It wasn't even music. I just sold him a bunch of televisions when I was working at Best Buy. He walked in. God, I am for to tell this story. Chuck knows I've told this story, so it doesn't matter. I was working at Best Buy, selling TVs in the home theater department, and there was this big buzz around the front door. Oh my God, on the radio. Oh my God, there's somebody here. Who's here? Chuck Lavell's here. Chuck Lavell's here. And I go, who? And he's like, Chuck Lavelle. Like, what do you mean, who, Charles? I was like, I don't know who you're talking about right now. Like, whatever. He walks back to home theater. I'm standing back there, and I go, hey, how you doing? I'm Charles. He's like, hey, man, I'm Chuck. And I was like, that's a great name to have, Chuck. And from then on, we've been like this. Like, that's my homie. Like, I've loved him for years off of that. And so I sold him a bunch of TVs. And it got to the point where he would come into the store and he'd be like, "Hey, is Charles here?" And he'd be like, "No, he's off today." And Chuck would turn back around and walk out the door. And
Wow.
when I would see him the next time, he'd be like, "Hey, man, yeah, I was here a couple days ago, but you weren't here." And I was like, "Oh, that's all right. What you need, Chuck?" So that went by, and it was years later till I saw him when we started the Creek and started working at the radio station. And they were like, "Yeah, Chuck Lavell's coming up." I was like, "Chuck Lavelle, where have I heard that name before?" And he walks around the corner and I go, "Chuck!" And he's like, "Charles, what's going on?" And so, yeah, that's my guy. Like him and Miss Rose Lane, like those are my people, man. I love them.
He's,
so much.
He could be with the Rolling Stones as long as he was, but it's forever for me. He's an Allman Brother.
He's an Allman Brother. He's an Allman Brother.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
Big part of that legacy. Hey, this has been an awesome conversation.
Yeah,
and Charles, how do people get a hold of you if they want to hear you Macon Music Revue? Like, where do you push them toward?
So I would say there is the MaconMusicRevue.com, which is our website. It's got all of our info, our show dates. It's got a link to the album that we've been talking about. The album is on Spotify and Apple Music and all the places for that. I host a radio show every Monday through Friday on 100.9 The Creek. That's thecreekfm.com. Yeah, that's pretty much, if I'm anywhere, I'm either on stage performing or on the radio, one of the two.
Fantastic, Charles. I am so grateful that you sat with me as long as you did today while we worked our way through.
It is
through
all
this.
good. Bob,
and
if I wouldn't love the conversation, I wouldn't stay. So this has been an absolute pleasure.
There you go. Back to that thing. Hey, I got two last questions for you.
Yeah, babe.
Talk to me about the South.
All right.
Do you consider yourself a Southerner? I know that you you relocated to Macon after many years, but Macon is also home. Like your parents are both from there, or your grandparents are from there.
My parents were both born and raised in Macon. I'm a military brat, so I was born in New York, but spent pretty much every summer of my childhood in Macon, Georgia. So I tend to call myself a Yankee with Southern charm. It's like, to me, like, the South is this beautiful enigma. It is, because it's like there are so many caricatures of what the South is. And in some caricatures, there's a bit of truth within them. Okay? So I live in the South that I live in right now. It is very different from the South that my mother was raised in, or my grandmother was raised in. So when I think about the South, I think about what it's been through and what it's given not only the country, but the world. Because of a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, the South has been through so much pain. And in my opinion, some of the best music has come from places of pain. And the Civil War wasn't fought in the North, it was fought in the South. All the damage was done down here. The Reconstruction happened down here. And so with that and the waterways where music has been able to travel across the centuries, and how the blues and rock and roll and all that got started is from Southern roots. American music has Southern roots.
Yes.
And no matter what genre you go into, you have to draw yourself back to the South to see where it originated from, in my opinion. So it's, like I said, it's this beautiful enigma of beautiful people and storytelling, and the food is beyond compare. And there's nothing like a summer in the South in the evening with cicadas going off, minimal mosquitoes, maybe an alcoholic beverage in your hand, and sitting on somebody's porch and watching the sun go down. Like there's nothing like that in the world. And when people come to the South, they realize, oh my God, the people down here are so nice and so laid back. Yeah, that's what it is. It's not what it appears to be or what people say it is. The South can get a bad rep sometimes, and maybe sometimes it's a bit earned. But like I couldn't imagine not having the connections that I have to the South. My life would be right. It wouldn't be the same.
Yeah, I'm very conflicted as a Southerner on a lot of terms, in many of the ways that you say. The divisions, that's one of the things that has always struck me. But culturally, musically in particular, right? That's where I always see people transcending these boundaries that are set for themselves.
Yes.
And we have an easy narrative about the Southern studios or the, Muscle Shoals and Stax being integrated. Oh, no problems in the studio, et cetera. And, many people, Charles Hughes among them, have refuted that. That's bullshit. That's happy talk in the future. By the same token, they were still making beautiful music together with the mind to work towards something greater than.
Yes.
I've got a quote. I don't know. I think it's in the book. But it's a Paul Hornsby quote that says, suddenly things were good for the South when the Allman Brothers broke. We're looking good because, we had all this crap on television, the civil rights movement, the fire hoses and everything else. And then you get this band of hippies with a black dude.
With a black man as their drummer. Yeah.
It's kind of, listen, I'm going to let you go. I will say huzzah on being a part of that long trend of Southern music history and culture. Y'all check out Macon Music Revue. I'll put the stuff in the show notes. If you only do one thing, listen to that Losing My Religion cover, because it's different. And that's what you want in a cover. And it pays a great homage. I'm super glad that Mike Mills dug it. I think that's badass.
I
think that's badass.
Hey, as long as they like it, I love it, baby.
Yeah. All right, Charles, I'm gonna hit stop here.
All right, yeah.